Thank you, dear friends, for joining this Jewish National Fund USA emergency briefing. I am Debla Zaluda, and I serve as president of Jewish National Fund USA. We have gathered all too frequently for these emergency briefings over the past 618 days. Yes, 618 days, and 53 hostages remain in Gaza. And now we begin a new count. But these calls strengthen our community and our connection to the land and people of Israel. Thank you for being here at this extraordinary, or as some say, historic time. We will hear today from an Israel Defense Force spokesperson, a public diplomacy expert, as well as from our own JNF USA team members on the ground in Israel, and updates from our Alexander Muss High School in Israel. We're going to get right into our speakers to respect the ever-changing demands on their schedules. And now that we must be agile, as our friends in Israel may have to excuse themselves during the briefing due to home front command directives. So if they do, please forgive them. Today we are fortunate to have with us Major Liad Diamond, head of the IDF Public Diplomacy Officer, leading international PR efforts and coordinating communication strategies with global media entities. Major Diamond is a native of New York and enlisted in the IDF when he turned 18. He was a combat soldier and received commendations for his efforts in Lebanon and Operation Protective Edge. Major Diamond, thank you for being here and for speaking with us. And I will note for our viewers that you can put questions in the chat, and we hope to get to a few of them, time permitting. Thank you, Major Diamond. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Major Diamond, please take it away. Major, are you still
There
with
we
us?
go. Now
There
I'm
we go.
here. I'm right over here.
Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to speak to all of you, especially today from here, from the skyline, the sky view of Tel Aviv. You can see in the background, and just like you said, if there will be any sirens or anything, I will be able to show it to you live as it's happening because I'm right here on top of the roof. So we have the best view to see pretty much everything that's going on. So, without too much of an intro, you all know that for the past several years, the Iranian regime has been waging a direct and indirect threat of a campaign of terror against Israel. They've pretty much built a ring of fire around the Israeli country, the country of Israel, with proxies in Lebanon, Hamas, now Houthis who are involved as well. And this has been going on for quite some time. And for many years now, they've been trying to obtain nuclear weapons. And the regime itself said several times, from the Ayatollahs all the way to the RGC officials, their 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 thoughts, their wants to destroy, of course, the state of Israel. Weapons of mass destructions are an existential threat to the people here in Israel. And for many, many years, we've been working tirelessly with all directorates and all forces within IDF and other communities here in Israel, Mossad, Shabak, to pretty much plan this preemptive strike that we've conducted just recently now on Thursday evening of last week. These are decisive days. We've decided to go on, of course, with the understandings and, of course, under the command of the political echelon to perform this preemptive strike, because we understand that Iran has gotten to the no-turn point, which means that they are they're right in the intersection from obtaining a nuclear weapon, and that is something that we cannot allow, and we cannot have somebody threatening us. This is one of the lessons learned from the 7th of October. We understood perfectly, and we understand perfectly that we have to defend our own, we have to look over our own, and we have to do it with the IDF, which is, of course, our main the only military we have to protect us. And just to share with you, where are we now? And this is unbelievable. I can't believe myself saying this, but the IDF, the IAF, the Israel Air Force, have pretty much opened an aerial corridor from Israel all the way to the western side of Tehran and Iran itself. And I'm saying this out loud, and I can't believe me saying it because this is something that nobody could, I wouldn't believe someone would say to me in another month or so, we'd have an open corridor, an aerial corridor where we have IAF assets at any given time above Tehran, above Iran. This is unbelievable, unprecedented. And we have more than 170 targets that we struck. One of those targets is a very crucial component of the nuclear program is the Natanz nuclear facility. The Natanz nuclear facility contains Iran's largest nuclear enrichment facility, where most of the enrichment was happening there. I'm not a nuclear expert. I'm sorry. I don't really understand too much in it. But I do know that they've reached the amount of uranium that just more above what they did today can allow them to obtain a nuclear weapon. Besides that, personal targeting, we've targeted more than 20 personnel in the IRGC and other individuals that are involved in obtaining this nuclear weapon. One of them is Amir Ali Hajizadeh. Hajizadeh is the commander of the RJC Air Force. He himself was in charge of killing many, many people throughout the Middle East. Some were US soldiers in different locations here in the Middle East, but he was also one of the architects of the Aramco attacks in Saudi Arabia just a couple of years ago. If you remember the attacks that Iran had did on Saudi Arabian soil. The other thing that we're dealing with is, of course, the attacks we have the barrages, the salvos of ballistic missiles that Iran is firing towards Israel. Imagine Iran has today several thousands of these ballistic missiles, and we were able during the strikes that we're performing now and all throughout the weekend, we were able to first of all stop a lot of the ballistic missiles being fired to Israel. We've managed to strike a lot of the places that they actually make those missiles. And that is something very crucial because I bet you've seen on what's going on here from the television. You've seen the destruction that these ballistic missiles have brought. We are now speaking of more than 10 people that were confirmed dead in the last several attacks that we had here. We have some of the best aerial defense systems in the world. We have Iron Dome, we have Arrow, we have David Sling. But as we always say to the people here in Israel, and also anybody who's here, the aerial defense is not 100%. There is never 100% in defense. And that is something very crucial because together in conjunction with the people here, the civilians here in Israel, we're managing to save a lot of lives by them just doing what we say and taking cover and not going outside, not filming anything, staying in the safe rooms and the shelters. Unfortunately, some deaths and some events have occurred throughout the past weekend. I just came back now from the event that happened in Bat Yam, where one of those warheads just struck a building in Bat Yam, killing several people there. We have still search and rescue crews are right now still operating there to rescue and look for survivors in Bat Yam itself. And also in Ramat Gan, we still are operating there as well to search and rescue capabilities. Um, just I went today I went today to Ramat Gan, and I visited that location that was struck on Friday night, one of the first missiles that struck that neighborhood. And one of the things I got there on scene like half an hour after that happened, and we managed to help a woman in her 60s to get outside of her house. The house was totally destroyed. Nothing was left. And we managed to pull her out. And she said to us that just beforehand, she was sitting in the living room hugging her husband because the building that they live in doesn't have a shelter inside the building. You have to leave the building, go from to the street, and from the street, you go to find a shelter. They decided to stay in the house. Um, and she just walked out, and I learned only a couple of hours later that she died. She died because of the blast, the shock wave that was sent from the ballistic missile is what killed her at the end. And also, we have other locations here that suffered tremendously from these ballistic missiles. I wanted to share with you, I went again today over there. Also, the president of Israel visited that location. One of the amazing things to see is how everybody come together, and people that don't know the people that suffered the event there just came and asked, "What can we do to help?" And you see all kinds of people from Israel just showing up down there and helping them to try and to obtain some of their personal items. Uh, they're coming with bags and some clothing to get outside from the houses because they're very unsafe. It's not secure to stay in the area of it. And just to see that, to see how everybody come together to help people that they don't know. They just saw it and they decided to come. That is the resilience. That is the resilience, and that is the story at the end of the day. And that is so important, and it's beautiful and heartwarming to see. So I think the best thing would be to answer some questions. I see everybody's. I bet you have a couple of them, so we can do that. Deb.
Yeah, okay. First question is, can you tell us what countries, if you're able to share, are joining in the effort that the IDF is involved in right now and helping us in this fight?
So there's several countries, several of our partners are helping us in all kinds and different ways. I'm not going to elaborate too much regarding it. Of course, we're in direct and very intimate contact with our U.S. partners that are aiding us in many fields and many things. And hopefully more will join because Iran is not just an Israeli problem. This is a worldwide issue, and everybody should join in, jump in, and help to make sure that they do not fulfill their aspirations to get uh, nuclear weapons or weapons at all.
Thank you. Another question I have is, of course, many words of thank you to you and for your service.
Thank you.
This is a two-part question. Would the Air Force, Mossad consider tactical support for Iranian protesters of the regime to promote regime change for the oppressed Persian people? And this person has read some requests that the U.S. I'm not sure if I understand this. I'll leave it with the first question for now.
So I'm the spokesperson for the IDF and not for the Mossad and not for the Israeli government. So I cannot really go into anything beyond what I know and what I can speak of. So I don't really know I can't really answer that question.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sorry.
Appreciate it. Any thoughts on how we envision that this might end? Do you foresee the possibility of political resolution?
The goals of this operation are very clear. We have to do whatever it takes to make sure that Iran does not obtain nuclear weapons. That means we still have a lot of work to do. As we are speaking right now, we have planes over Iran striking different components of the nuclear program and other IRGC places. Um, so once we get that squared away, then we can say that we fulfilled our mission. But again, we're up to some very, very tough days and long hours before we can even call it quits.
Another question that I have is how does our actions currently happening in Iran impact, if at all, what's happening in Gaza, where we still have 53 hostages?
Well, first of all, we're working tirelessly. Even though we are focused on Iran, we still are operating in the Gaza Strip. We still have soldiers that are maneuvering there right now. They're still fighting the Hamas, and the Hamas is still holding 53 of our people in Gaza. I think that this is going to help because at the end of the day, Hamas are going to understand that they're pretty much alone. Look where we are with Hezbollah up in the north in Lebanon. Look at what's going on in Syria. Look at what's going on with the Houthis. So Hamas is pretty much is getting to where they're becoming very isolated. And that is something that can help us bring back our people. And although we are speaking about Iran, and Iran is all over the news right now, and that's pretty much one of the main things people think, we still look and do everything that we can do in order to bring back our people from Gaza, and we're not going to stop. We're working tirelessly to bring that to an end as well, and to bring them home, hopefully, very, very soon.
Thank you. Are you able to say if we know what kind of arsenal still remains in Iran? We seem to have done a pretty good job so far, but who knows what's left?
They still have firing capabilities. They're still firing. Just today at 3:30 afternoon here, Israel time, a salvo of almost 50 ballistic missiles were fired towards us. They still have many UAVs that they fire them every now and then, either to the north or to the south of the country. So they still have capabilities. This is not over yet. That's why it's crucial, especially for folks that are here in Israel, to obey and to listen to the guidelines of the Home Front Command. This is not ending yet. It hasn't ended yet. We are working still there to make sure that they don't have those capabilities, but it's going to take some time. And unfortunately, it'll be a bit longer than maybe what people think or estimate.
All right, one last question.
Please.
Thoughts on a unified message that we can all convey in the diaspora to our ally communities?
We are all in it together. You are part of the Israel heartbeat, whether you want it or not. You have your own issues on the other side of the pond, over there in the States and in Europe and etc. But as long as we stay together, as long as we stay united, as long as we support one another, we will prevail because we don't have any other option. There is no other option that we have, so we must. And this is not a war just of Israel. This is Jews, pro-Israeli, pro-life, pro-life people. This is what we're doing right now. So we must stick together. We must help one each other, open our hearts a bit more, and together we'll win this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really very much appreciate your words and your time. And from all of us at Jewish National Fund USA, please be safe, remain safe, and you don't have to show us what's happening behind you. You hear a siren, go where you're supposed to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support, and we'll speak later on. Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to turn us over now to Tali Tzour, Jewish National Fund USA Chief of Staff in Israel.
I see. I was muted, right? Am I muted?
Nope, you're good now.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Hold on for a second. I don't know what happened here. Okay, so again, good evening from Israel, and thank you, Deb, and thank you, everyone. And I would like to give you, a short brief from what's going on the ground. But first, I have to, to say, to describe to you how we over here, the Israelis, feel. Since October 7, we have become accustomed to, living in a state of emergency, a routine of emergencies with the peaks. Nevertheless, together with you, we've been functioning with a lot of motivation and commitment to the land and the people of Israel. Now we are once again in a crisis, and that's on top of a year and 8 months in which people have accumulated difficulties. We feel real danger and existential fear. The systems are exhausted, and we are tired after several sleepless nights. Until now, the war has been concentrated in the north and the south. Now, the home front has become the front line. However, our small team in Israel, the JNF team in Israel, together with our partners, has been working for decades, long before October 7th, to build, strengthen, empower, and populate the communities in the Negev and the Galil, and on building resilience, especially in the north and the south. We are there on the ground every day. We have become one big family whose members are responsible for each other. Many team members and colleagues of our staff and partners have been called up for reserve duty, and others are at home with children who currently have no access to schools or educational frameworks. Yet, we're mobilizing thousands of volunteers through our different affiliates in Israel, whom we work with every single day to implement our programs and projects. One group of young people are already mobilizing thousands of young families and helping them to find places in homes as they were torn from their houses, as well as helping the elderly to move to the safe rooms and keep the kids busy and happy while all school systems are closed. We're also recruiting every possible volunteer to assist farmers throughout the country, including students from agricultural schools that we've been helping to establish and participants of the pre-academy volunteer systems that we've been helping in opening. In conversation I had this past weekend with heads of local councils and our partners across the country, I was again struck by how significant and vital the work of Jewish National Fund USA is in building life infrastructure and resilience infrastructure for communities, municipalities, and residents. The mayor of Central Arava, Mayor Tzour, called me this morning to thank us again, telling me that 2 IDF brigades with hundreds of soldiers are now protecting the eastern border, the border of the Arava with Jordan. The ACAT building, the gym, the aquatic center, the emergency and response center, and the medical center all have been built by Jewish National Fund USA, are all being used now by soldiers to sleep, eat, use facilities, and receive services. And if that's not enough, he also told me that the 17 public shelters that we have provided to the Arava during the last year are now giving the residents safe and protected spaces during the current emergency. In the Western Negev, our family that we've been hugging and supporting before, during, and after October 7th, the emergency and response buildings, the emergency team equipment, the community shelters, the in-home shelters, all contribute to the sense of resilience and stability, tells me Mayor Michal Uziau. And she's adding that JNF has been so strategic in the way we think and act in their region, building its resilience. In Ramat HaNegev, Mayor Eran Doron is once again receiving evacuees from central Israel and IDF bases that have become targets, utilizing the facilities that we've been built in the region. In the north, the hundreds of protective shelters we've provided for the communities allow for protected space during the frequent sirens. And despite the emergency, we are continuing to build the medical center in Kiryat Shmona and the Galil Culinary Institute, two game changers for the region. We've been working with Israel's Fire and Rescue Authority, part of our Homeland Security forces, for over 2 decades, and we've become part of their lives. Since Friday, the Israel Fire and Rescue Services have been operating 24/7 in emergency mode. Due to the small size of the force, only 2,200 firefighters, off-duty personnel, have voluntarily joined to double the operational capacity. They have responded to 38 war-related incidents in addition to routine station calls. In the past 24 hours alone, they handled 3 major incidents: the collapse of residential building from a direct hit in Rehovot, the collapse of multi-story building and trapped individuals, including parking structure in Bat Yam, and direct hit on a strategic asset in Rehovot. Nearly 200 individuals have been rescued so far with varying levels of difficulties. JNF does not only understand the fire and rescue needs, we provide life-changing equipment, life-saving, equipment with hundreds of fire trucks, and we're also offering barbecue meals and opportunities for the families of the firefighters to get together. They are our family. Our louder employment centers are responding to the needs of the business and employees, organizing nationwide Zoom meetings and emergency management. In the Western Galil now, we're currently dealing both with cancellation of events scheduled for the coming week and planning events for the weeks ahead. Israeli reality, and this is who we are. We're also starting to prepare care packages for soldiers and reservists working non-stop for the safety of the country. That's in addition to the 25,000 we've already packed and shipped. The shockwaves from the explosion in Tel Aviv caused extensive damage to the JNF section of Tel Aviv Nefesh B'Nefesh Center. But this is not going to stop us from supporting the Aliyah to Israel and from supporting Operation Hug to bring the family members to hug their lone soldiers in Israel. This is who we are, one big family in Israel and over the ocean, in the north and in the south, and now the center has joined too. And together, Kol Israel Arevim Ze Laze, we're all responsible for each other. All of us, here in Israel and in the US, we're part of something bigger, which is supporting and building Israel. JNF was here before October 7th, during the war, and we will be forever. It is essential to continue supporting the building of emergency and response centers we're building, the protective shelters that we're providing, the emergency equipment we're supplying to the first response teams, the support we're giving for the firefighters' equipment and fire trucks, the construction of resilience centers, and the many activities we support, whether it's aid for special needs populations or assistance to towns and the residents. Everyone I've spoken with, leaders, residents, and partners, asked me to thank you on their behalf and to remind us all that the work our organization is doing is essential, strategic, and is building a stronger, more resilient, and stable Israel. Toda rabba, And yes, Am Israel Chai. And now I would like to move and invite Steve Katnow, the head of Mass High School in Israel, to give us a brief review of what's going on in the campus. Steve?
Thank you. Thank you, Tali. I hope you could all hear me. I have a few words. First, happy Father's Day to all of you in North America. It's great to see many of you, although I wish it was under very different circumstances. And as I said to my staff, the good news is that we've been through this before, and the bad news is that we've been through this before. I want to pick up on something that Tali just said that relates to our 31 students that are currently on program. Up until about a week and a half ago, we were close to 200, but most of the other programs had ended. We have Camp Stein, which was in the middle or beginning of their program, and our mini-mester, which was in the last week of their program. So that is the 31 that remain. It's a good reminder that there's no place like home. Hod is home and Israel is home. And for the next few days, maybe even a little bit longer, Hod will remain home for those students who have to be with us, and we will make it as comfortable as absolutely possible. I want to say a few things. That first and foremost, our top priority remains the safety and well-being of our students. And regardless of when they were expected to go home, we will care for them in every way possible. We've enacted all of our emergency protocols. Students are housed in dorms. They're using public spaces that are all within close proximity to shelters. And our team is working around the clock to ensure that we're following the most current and precise safety guidelines. At the same time, we are working hard to make sure that our students stay engaged, emotionally supported, and informed about the reality on the ground. One of our biggest concerns at any given time is that the students become too complacent. They become accustomed to the sirens and don't take them seriously. As we've seen, or as you have seen on the news, there are dire consequences when that happens. That is why we remain vigilant, we remain well-staffed, and we remain attentive to all of our students' needs. I want to recognize how well they are handling themselves with courage, resilience, and care for one another. In the meantime, we are also working on making sure that they are safely returned to their homes in North America. Many of their parents remain concerned, glued to the TV. They've downloaded the Pikud HaOref app, and they are paying attention to what is going on here. We need to make sure that these teens are well cared for until they are returned home. In that regard, I want to say something else. We are part of a coalition called the Israel Education Travel Alliance, and there are other programs that have teens and young college students in the country. Many have been relocated to either the Dead Sea or Eilat. We are not relocating in part because of our coordination with security force, the Pikud HaOref and Moked Teva, and also in part because we have a campus. Most of those programs had their students in hotels and hostels in central Tel Aviv. While Hod HaSharon is definitely in the center of the country, we have our campus and we have the same safety and security rooms that any building should have. There is no place in Israel that has been immune from the sirens or the rockets and the drones over the last few days. It's hard to imagine that this only started on Thursday evening and it's only Sunday. It's hard for us to imagine, but we are doing it with strength, and we're keeping our students and our staff well occupied, and we want you to continue to keep our students and staff in your thoughts, in your prayers, and consider, how important MUS is to the future of the Jewish leadership in America. I also want to end by thanking my staff who are on this call. I see a few of them. I want to thank my board who are on the call. I see a number of them as well. And I want to thank all of the J&F Central staff who have been working tirelessly to help us return these students safely to America. Thank you, and I think I'm giving it back to you, Tali.
Thank you so much, Steve. And now I would like to call Dr. Saul Lizerbram, our chairman. Saul.
Thank you, Tali. I'd now like to welcome Gadi Ezra to this briefing. Gadi has joined us following Iran's unprecedented attack on Israel on April 13th, 2024. Gadi is Israel's former National Public Diplomacy Unit Director. Gadi was responsible for coordinating and integrating public diplomacy on issues of national priority. He coordinated former President Joe Biden's visit to Israel after October 7th and orchestrated national public diplomacy force-building projects on behalf of Israel. A human rights attorney and Israeli Special Forces veteran, today Gadi is a commentator for Israeli affairs on foreign media on matters of national security. Gadi, thank you so much for joining us again. I will note for our viewers once again that you can put questions into the chat, and we hope to be able to get to some of them. Gadi?
Thank you, Saul. The main problem of sharing a Zoom call with Liad is that you are never considered the smartest guy in the room. And before I jump into our topic, I just want to say someone wrote in the chat that he or she are sorry for us having to suffer what's going on. I would like to correct that. We have a huge, huge privilege of defending our shared homeland. Our people have dreamt for 2,000 years of having our own country. We have the privilege of defending it. I feel sorry for those who are not part of this. And by that, I'm going to say thank you to you, JNF USA, affiliates and staff for being such an integral part of this fight, for holding the stretcher from a different angle. Israel is no more mine than it's yours. And by that, I want to begin by saying a huge toda for caring, for contributing, for simply being there all the time, and for doing your tremendous work. So as said before, these are historic days in every aspect. I have about 10 minutes. So I'm not going to go over every aspect of this preemptive self-defense strike. I will state, however, the following 4 points. The first concerns the Israeli modus operandi. Our achievements are still being processed, right? The military moves are ongoing. The planning, the pilots' challenges, the Mossad conduct, the quality of intel, all of those are going to be learned in military academies worldwide. But one thing can already be said with relative certainty. The attack was preceded by a series of events that were not entirely coincidental. The announcement of Netanyahu's departure for vacation, personal constraints in his private life, such as his son's upcoming wedding, which has already been postponed, political trends, such as Witkoff's future arrival in the region, or quotes by Israeli sources that condition a strike on Iran only on the failure of American negotiations. All these conveyed that the H hour had not yet come, that it may be close, but not necessarily immediate. It is reasonable to assume that some of those circumstances are genuine and stem from, sincere youth love, right? But some are probably not. And the combination, the sequence of all those elements together is what created the most significant deception operation in Israel's history, or if you'd like, an anesthetic for the Ayatollah regime that went to sleep like a loud tiger and woke up like a peeling paper. The second thing I want to touch upon concerns the Iranian people. Look, the Israeli conduct have a substantial impact on the personal security perception of every single Iranian these days. The Israeli Air Force operates in the country's skies as if it were across the street, really. Symbols of power, senior officials were targeted in their own homes. And an entire layer of military leadership was wiped out. The direct consequence is that the feeling of infiltration among Tehran's residents is really shocking. Their loss of sovereignty, which is what we felt on October 7th, their loss of sovereignty is experienced by so many people and haven't been experienced since the Islamic Revolution in 1979. And what intensified this sentiment is the fact that the Iranian people cherish life in principle. They're quite similar to us, Jews. This is also why their regime has promoted its destructive aspirations by proxies who were supposed to serve as a choke ring on Israel, but also to take the hit for them. Now, this represents an opportunity for Israel and the Iranian people alike. Their genuine emotions, if you like, must be channeled into a constructive direction that will lead to the downfall of the Ayatollah regime. Now, of course, I'm not suggesting this is an easy task, but what we have to understand is that the Ayatollah regime is the greatest enemy of the Jewish people since the Third Reich. Therefore, preventing nuclear capabilities or ballistic missiles capabilities will not eliminate the danger in the long run, as it is the symptom, not the root of the problem. And this is why Israel must use its resources in every informational platform possible to reach out to the Iranian people and remind them in their own language that the attack is not against them, but against the leadership, and that if only they want, freedom is within their reach. The third thing I would like to touch upon concerns the geopolitical context. Now, I have discussed this in my previous speaking tour for JNF USA, particularly when visiting Boston. I spoke about the global war and the global clash we're all part of. On the one side, we have Russia and China. And on the other, we have the West, led by the United States of America. All these three states are permanent members of the UN Security Councils, which also explains the constant deadlock the Council suffers from. Iran and North Korea in this regard are proxies of one side, while Israel is affiliated with the other. Now, for many, many years, we have been fighting a proxy of a proxy. Hamas, Hezbollah, etc. But now, for the first time, we're clashing directly with Iran, and we're clashing with them in a more substantial manner than we have in April and October. This is a true full-scale war with them. What is important to understand here is that each action we take now will inevitably have a broader impact. An example is the oil field. 90% of Iranian oil is sold to China in comfortable prices to bypass American sanctions. 10% of Chinese oil is imported from Iran. And this is also why Trump's words and deeds should be analyzed not only through the Israeli prism, but from this geopolitical broader lens. The fourth and last component I would like to touch upon concerns the Israeli circumstances in which all of this is currently happening. This preemptive self-defense strike has been taken with substantial Israeli political circumstances in the background, not just military ones. And on the top of them is the drafting law, which may exempt tens of thousands of our Haredi brothers from service. Now, what one needs to understand is that this issue is not just a matter of manpower. It is an issue of an ethos, of a country's DNA. But even if you want to lay it in technical terms, what we saw in the last 2 nights was an opening strike. It wasn't the end. The Iranian could strike back. Their ability to hurt us even more do exist, and the Israeli challenge would be to maintain its campaign against Iran while exempting tens of thousands from service if it chooses to do so, while its reservists need someone with them under the stretcher. These circumstances, one needs to understand, will inevitably impact Israel's ability to continue the war without Americans' physical support. As long as, the Americans are not jumping in. Let's hope we won't get there, as Iranians will find themselves celebrating in the streets sooner than later, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gadi, not only for your words, but also for your service. And just a couple questions, because I want to be mindful of the time and get everybody back to, especially on your side, what they need to do. Do you know if any American Israeli citizens have been injured or killed?
You mean in the
In
last?
Israel, in the last 3 days?
I am not familiar with this information. It's a good question, actually. Something we need to echo to the world if it's true. Absolutely.
Okay, great. And how much coordination and support are you getting from Israel? We're getting, it's hard for us to judge how much coordination there is with the U.S. and how much support you're getting from U.S.
So just let me make sure I understand the question, Saul. You're asking how much support do we get from the United States?
Yes, in this current time.
Right. So when one talks about support, we need to differentiate between a few layers. The first is, of course, the physical or kinetic aspect, right? We're getting ammunition from the United States. Trump has said that the attack was due to American equipment and ammunition. That is the physical component. In addition, there is the diplomatic component, right? I wrote probably in the first few hours when this started, this attack should be seen as part of the American negotiations. Now, some people were skeptical by me saying that, and after a few hours, the president himself said that. Now, I didn't say that because I'm that smart. I'm not. I said that because I'm trying to understand the broader context here. And the goal of the United States of America right now is not necessarily to eliminate the Ayatollah regime, but to eliminate the Iranian nuclear capabilities in a way that may lead to the destruction of the regime. If it was otherwise, right, if it was just wiping the Ayatollah regime, the US would have been launching a military strike a month ago. That is not the case. You're engaging in a diplomatic negotiation, in a peaceful negotiation with a very clear cause. Now, you're very supportive in the sense that we share the same goal, right? Of preventing nuclear capabilities, in preventing ballistic missiles capabilities, etc. What I would humbly add to that, Saul, is that we cannot see the destruction of the nuclear program as sufficient. Because if that's the only way we view it, in my view, again, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, we might end up with spectacular, unimaginable achievements, but with a problem that may renew itself in 10 or 20 years. Because not having the ability to enrich uranium would not turn the Iranian regime and the Ayatollah regime into Zionists. That is for sure, right? And above all that, above the physical or kinetic and diplomatic support we're getting from the United States, there is also the spiritual support, the morale, right? Knowing that the most powerful entity in the world is behind us, it's powerful. Knowing that by a matter of a tweet, of a post on Facebook, the US president can threat Iranian leadership or install so much spirit in the Israeli people, it is a significant component of this war, right? I was hosted in a TV panel today. I'm in a TV panel every other day, basically, Saul. And today when Trump tweeted that the war should end, everyone stopped the discussion and we started talking about this. It impacts not just the cycle of the news in Israel, but also the Israeli inner sentiment among every Israeli and Jew in the country. And by that, I want to go back to what I said at the beginning. This support is not just due to the shared values that we have. with the United States of America. It is due to the support of American Jewry, of people like yourself, of us knowing that you have our back, and the leadership, the administration also knows that it's not just a matter of Israelis, it's powerful American Jewry. And by that I'm saying, each and every one of us is holding this stretcher from a different angle. I'm not entitled to Israel more than you are, Saul, or more than anyone else. The fact that I pay taxes here or serve in the reserve duty more than 300 days as a combat soldier does not matter. Your actions, your deeds, your words in the States impact the administration in the States, therefore helping us not just maintain and preserve the Zionist project we're all part of, but also enabling all of us to maintain our shared homeland for the next 2,000 years ahead.
So, Gadi, thank you for those beautiful words and for including us. It makes us feel really very, very special. And of course, thank you to our own Tali Tzour and Steve Cutno. Be safe. We'll see you all very soon. Now I'm going to turn it back over to our president, Deb Zaluda.
Thank you, Saul. Sometimes it feels like we're alone, but we really aren't. Just yesterday, we received a letter from Kathy Dorsch of Mission Fields, a church in Arkansas, and I'll just quote one line: "Your family is our family." So she's the minister there. She's part of our Clergy for Israel, and we're not alone. It often feels like our hearts beat in sync with the people of Israel. Their pain is our pain, their fears our fears. Yet we share the same unbridled belief that has sustained our Jewish people for millennia, that our best days, God willing, are yet to come. We still have more to achieve, and we remain determined to fulfill our destiny as a proud light unto the nations. Because of our decades-long on-the-ground presence, relationships, and infrastructure, because we never waited for the need to arise before showing up, we are not starting from scratch. We are already there. Our resources, logistics, networks, and passionate professionals are mobilized and ready to deploy as the situation evolves. On a personal note, my heart aches knowing that my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter are there, and like all of you in Israel, are going in and out of their mamad, making a game of it for their 2-year-old Lihi, and creating a slumber party to hopefully enjoy a night of uninterrupted sleep. Thank you to all of you who have reached out to see how they are doing during these difficult days. And thank you to everyone who has stepped up and supported our critical work. Friends, if you haven't yet, please consider making a gift to support our on-the-ground efforts via jnf.org/Israel Strong or call 800-JNF-0099. We pray we can see you in Israel soon, and we also hope to see you, all of you, at our Global Conference for Israel happening in Hollywood, Florida, October 23 through 26, where you can register at jnf.org/global. Thank you for joining us today, and please stay safe. Am Yisrael Chai.